People are always so surprised to hear that quilters are not garment makers. We can explain how the tools and the skills are different, but the reality is most of us are worried about investing all that time and have the clothing not fit us properly. My next guest, Kate McIvor, is trying to change that. From her store in Montana and her YouTube channel, she is teaching us to make clothing and quilts that make us feel confident. So grab your sewing and a cup of tea, and here's my interview with Kate McIvor. Welcome, Kate, to the show. Are you coming to us from Montana?
I am. I'm in Missoula, Montana.
I follow a YouTuber by the name of Itchy Boots. She's a motorcyclist going from South America to Alaska, and she was in Missoula a couple of weeks ago. And I'm going, she's driving the streets. I'm looking for your shop.
Yeah, well, we're right downtown on Front Street, which is one of the main downtown streets. So she might have ridden right by.
So what came first, your love of garment sewing or quilting?
Garment sewing came first, but then quilting took over, and then garment sewing came back.
And how did you come to sewing to begin with?
Well, I sewed with my mom and my grandma. My grandma had a treadle machine, and I made Barbie clothes and lots of, Barbie sleeping bags and lots of stuff with all her scraps. My grandma made almost all of her own clothes out of polyester and made quilts as well.
Are you from Montana?
No, I grew up in California, but my mom and my grandparents grew up in Montana. I visited my grandma in Montana.
So how did you end up back in Montana then?
Well, as soon as my mom graduated from college, she hopped on a bus and moved to California. And as soon as I graduated from college, I hopped in my car and moved to Montana. It's like we both just had wanderlust in different directions.
When did your love of quilting or making turn into wanting to open up a fabric store?
Well, I've always loved sewing. It's been therapeutic for me. I love every aspect of it. But I was working in public health, and it's really important to me to have a mission, to be making the world a better place. So in public health, you're creating conditions in which the entire community can be healthy. And I loved that. I did that for 25 years. And I don't know if I would have made the leap to open a fabric store if I didn't find sewing to be empowering. That kind of happened in the last 10 years. I realized how empowering sewing is for those of us who do it.
Were classes part of your store right from the beginning?
Yes, they were. And I love teaching. But during the pandemic, I switched to making YouTube videos. And now I'm having trouble switching back to teaching in person because the YouTube videos take a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked about that through when you were helping me in my quilt coat. Still not finished quilt coat, but it is incredible on how much time a YouTube video takes to make. People just don't see it. I don't think you can appreciate how long it takes until you start making it, because it just looks so easy.
Yeah, especially yours, because you're so good. You do make it look easy.
Do I?
You do.
We were talking about this as well. Like, it takes a lot of prep. You think you can just wing it. For some reason, YouTube, you just think you can turn on your cell phone and a video will come out the other end.
Right.
But the more you're at it, the more you realize the more you can front end load the production, right, the more you get everything nailed down before you start. It makes the back end so much easier.
And for the first couple of years, for me, I was making them live because I don't know how to edit. So I would have all these oven ready steps. So I'd, have the project a quarter of the way done, 3/4, halfway done, 3/4 of the way done, almost done, so that I could whip out the the roast out of the oven like Julia Child as I was filming live. I'm still doing that, even though I now have videographers who edit for me. Thank goodness.
Well, I noticed on your website that you have a staff of 4 in the store. You may even have even more behind the scenes, but you have a fairly young staff.
They're very young, younger than my children.
So that must be fun having all those young people come to making.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's fun to see them discover things. I don't hire people because they know how to sew. I hire people because they're smart and they can deal with the website and help with videos and help me with all the technical stuff. I'm the sewer and they're all learning, but they do all the behind the scenes stuff, which is great.
So when in your journey did the good fit, clothes that fit, come to be so important?
About 10 years ago, growing up, the only thing I knew how to do if something didn't fit is just either take in the side seam or let out the side seam. End of list, and I found a book. It was a Colette book written by Sari Mitnick, who owns Seamwork. It was just kind of an overview of how to alter patterns to make them fit. Then I learned about Palmer Pletch, which are Pati Palmer and Marta Alto, who have written the Bible on fitting and altering patterns to make them fit. And it was life-changing for me. I'm almost 6 feet tall. I think you're really tall as well. I have a big bust and a very flat butt. And, things just didn't fit me. And it was easy for me to feel bad about me because things didn't fit me in the changing room. And just to realize, I can add tissue here and take it away there, and it's going to fit me. And I don't have to feel bad. And everyone has to do a little of that. Even if Barbie was a real person, she would have to do that, And so it was just such an aha moment for me. And so I became a certified Palmer Pletch instructor. And the first Palmer Pletch class I took, you go to Portland, Oregon and spend a week. And one of the students was an engineer who had lost her job after 20 years. And all those years, she'd just been wearing polo shirts and Dockers and didn't have a dress that fit. And so Marta and Pati made sure that she had 4 dresses, tissue fit and ready to go for her to sew for interviews for a new job. When they fit the fabric on her, she just burst into tears and finally had something that fit. And it was just so moving for me. And she just felt like, I can get a new job. I can wear a dress that looks great on me. So I think from that moment on, I was hooked.
Well, it's so funny how wearing clothes that fit makes such a difference. Just what you've described, just having ones like, I have the very same problem with my bust, and there's just no shirt that I could buy off the rack that fits around my arms properly. And it's fitting my shoulders, fitting my bust line, and miraculously fits everywhere. But when I have that outfit on, the one that does fit, it gets worn 5 times more than anybody else because it feels comfortable.
And
you
feel confident.
You feel confident. And the book that you sent me just felt so obtainable. It wasn't something that I needed to take a year-long college course for or work for an atelier in Paris, France. It was something that I could do right away. Now, do you offer classes at your location to do that?
I mostly just do private lessons to do that because it's just, as you discovered, it's really personal. Everyone has different little things they need to do to the pattern. And so I think it works best on a one-on-one.
I realized after we were doing it for about a half an hour, you know, so much of it was looking at my breasts, or I'm sure with other people it'd be looking at their backsides or whatever, but you're just suddenly at this level of intimacy. You've gone from 0 to 10 so quickly. And when I was editing the video, I was going like, okay, I could only say bust so many times.
Yeah.
Does it ever get awkward?
No, it doesn't get awkward. It just gets less and less awkward as you go. At the Palmer Pletch classes, it's funny, you know, the first day people are like, you know, really shy about taking their shirt off, and they put it back on as quickly as possible. And then by the second day, people are forgetting to put their shirt back on completely. They're walking around in their bra and completely unabashedly. So yeah, I think it gets more and more comfortable. And it's, so I do have students that come back, you know, we'll do one fitting and then they'll come back for another one. And, you know, by the second or third time, they're just like, oh, I forgot my undershirt. Oh, well.
You find different parts of the body harder to adjust for than others?
Well, I find pants really hard, and I feel that I haven't quite mastered them yet. I am excited to feel like I have a little free time so I can take a pants class again. I've taken 2 week-long how to fit pants classes, and it's really confusing. So I think everything from the neck to the hips, I'm good. I can do a dress or a shirt on just about anyone, but pants are really hard.
Well, I think that you've got the other aspect with pants is that they can look perfect standing. They might even look good walking, but you still have to sit in the darn things.
Right. And there's the shape of the crotch curve and the side seam. It's really hard to read the tissue or the fabric to figure out, well, do we need to change the crotch curve or do we need to change the side seam? And also the crotch curve is kind of, it's like opposite day, like to make it bigger, you do that.
Yes, I know exactly
what you think would make it smaller. Yeah, it's just, I have 2 pairs of pants that I have altered, or 2 types of pants that I've altered for myself. And I just make those over and over.
So you have 2 daughters?
I do, yes.
Have you passed on your love of quilting to them?
No. Well, my older daughter is just not crafty. She actually has just started knitting, which at age 30, which is exciting. My younger daughter loves to make clothes, and she works for a clothing company. So she is immersed in the clothing world. Right. So but she doesn't quilt, no, just garments.
So you have a beautiful quilt behind you there. Can you tell me a little bit more about that one?
Yeah, so this is our block of the month this year. So one of our customers made this, and it's very scrappy. It's a Jen Kingwall quilt, and Suzanne, who lives in Missoula, it comes every month and teaches two sessions on how to make each block. And so the students are almost done, but everyone will have their own scrappy version of this quilt. So it's really fun.
So in your journey to make quilts, what have you discovered about what kind of quilts you like to make?
Well, I really like modern fabrics. I really like bright colors. The kind of quilts I like to make, I like almost all quilts. I really like is the Studio 180 Designs rulers. Those have really upped my quilting game and made me feel more confident about making lots of different shapes. I love you sew the units slightly oversized and then trim them down with these specialized rulers, and I really like that. So I feel like I can make quilts where the points meet, and even though I'm not a naturally precise person.
In my last 2 interviews, I had a woman that quilted with no rules.
Yeah, I saw, yeah.
And then my last one is a person that's all about precision, and I fall somewhere in between.
Yeah, I am not naturally precise at all, but I like it when my points meet. It makes me happy. but it's not easy for me.
Oh, it never gets old when the points line up. I mean, that's just a bonus. You feel like you should have a gold star chart.
I know.
Now you have a store, you have access to all those fabrics. Has your color palette changed since you've been buying all those fabrics?
A little bit. I've learned a lot, as you might imagine. Just a lot about the importance of maybe having a fabric that you, in a color that you don't love, having that color in your quilt so that it all comes together cohesively. Like one time someone was looking for kind of an army green quilting cotton, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't have any of them because that's my least favorite color. But I need to have it in my store and in my quilts because it's an important color.
Well, I'm even just looking, a little bit of that army green is in the quilt in the back. It's not
Right.
Probably, you wouldn't have thought it army green until you said it out loud, but it's definitely there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love this quilt. So yeah. And just for me, moving beyond the colors that I look good in and having quilting cotton in all the colors is more challenging than you might think, because I'll look at a color card and be like, I like these 3 colors. And it's like, well, I'm not wearing it. I'm putting it, someone's going to put it in a quilt. So I need to branch out.
That must be probably the biggest challenge as a quilt store owner, is buying the fabric that you don't like.
Yeah. And I don't buy a lot that I don't like. So, I mean, people do walk in sometimes and just say, you don't have anything that I like. And then other people are like, I like every fabric you've picked. So yeah, it is really hard. It's harder than I thought it would be. I mean, I love picking fabric. It's going to be the easiest part of the job, but there's so many to choose from, and all the salespeople come, and narrowing it down and finding things that other people will like is really challenging.
Do you find that you have to be wary of buying too much of what you do like particular colors, like buying it over and over again?
Right. Yeah. If I look on I have a basics wall, and if I look on the wall, I'm like, oh, look at all that teal. Somebody must love teal. And the periwinkle. Yeah. Yeah. I have to step away from the teal and the periwinkle because those are my favorite colors.
Well, I'm there with the teal. I'm there. Well,
yeah, exactly.
What's your favorite part of quilting?
Well, the piecing for sure. I don't know. I love so much of it. Yeah, I love the kind of therapeutic repetition of cutting a whole bunch of units and sewing them with a 1/4 inch seam and then pressing. It's just such a nice rhythm. It's very, very calming for me. I don't know when it happened, but I think at the point where I stopped sweating when I had to rip a seam out and just saw it as part of the process was when I really became a sewer.
Time to use this tool.
Yeah, time to use a different tool. Exactly. So
you mentioned that you started a YouTube channel when the pandemic started. What else did you have to do in the last 2 years to just kind of, 1, get through it, and 2, serve your customers?
The pandemic started and our governor shut down retail stores. My first thing was I told my staff that they had to start working part-time, that, there just wasn't going to be enough work. But because we had a full service, super functional website already, and all the other quilt stores and fabric stores in the country were shut down, we got so many orders that within 2 days, I was completely overwhelmed and had to bring the entire staff back. We did really well online while the country was shut down. Then Montana opened up again pretty quickly. Besides classes, it wasn't a huge shift for us.
The move to YouTube, how has that changed your process?
Well, it takes a lot of time, as we talked about at the beginning. It takes so much of my time. And because I'm the only sewer on staff, it's all me. So it does take me away from other things and mean that I don't work up front very much, and I don't have time to teach in-person classes. So it's great. I love it. It's one of my new favorite things to do, but it does take me away from a lot of things. And I'm challenged by figuring out how to make the YouTube channel grow and become as good as you.
Well, we can talk about that later. When you moved to YouTube, what was your purpose? Just to serve people that were stuck at home, or was it just to replicate your classes online?
During the pandemic, I felt a little freer, like I had some free time. When I had first started making YouTube video, trying to make videos, I was so nervous. I was a wreck. I was terrible. So I had an employee who said, okay, the pandemic started, you're going to make live videos, ready, set, go. And that's kind of what I needed. I needed someone to throw me in the deep end and get on live and calm down and be myself on video. That was just really helpful. And so now I feel that I can graduate to actual edited videos instead of live ones.
You have an interesting subscription service called Quilts Swap Experience. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so Kate Swatch Experience is really grown into a big project that we love, but it's a ton of work. We have actually 3 experiences. One is for quilters, where every quarter you get you get 16 to 25 5.5-inch squares of quilting cotton that are coordinated for the season. So we have one coming out in November, and it's going to be all a very wintry collection. I also make a small project that uses just the 5.5-inch squares, and a larger project, I design a quilt with those fabrics, and I make 2 videos, one showing how to make the small project and one showing how to make the bigger quilt. And then we also have a garment for you, where you get a card. It's a card stock with 3 layers, and you get 10 fabrics, and they're glued to the card, but you can lift them up and see what the fabric is, how to sew with it, how to care for it, and then we have a suggested pattern. And we have a cool tone card for garment makers and a warm tone card, depending on what colors you like to wear or what your skin tone is. And Maisie and I make a video talking about the fabrics and the patterns that go along with that. So it's really big. It's a lot of work and really, really fun.
Is it to help people see the fabrics before they buy?
Yeah. So, one of the hardest things about buying fabric online is that you can't touch it or see the actual color. Like, even though we work really hard to get the colors right, it's still photography. So for the quilting cotton, you can see exactly what they look like. All of our quilting cotton is super high quality, so I don't know that people need to touch it to trust it. The garment fabrics is great because you can learn like what a scuba knit is, what a cotton spandex knit is, what a rayon challis feels like, what a voile feels like, what it looks like. And so you can really learn about all the different substrates and also feel good about ordering.
So when you bring in those fabrics, and you probably bring them in a couple of different colors, how do you decide which one gets into the swatch pile?
Actually, my staff does most of that work. I mean, it was my idea and I thought I would be good at it, but I'm not as good as I would like to be. So my staff does a really good job of putting together the quilting collection. I pick the small and large projects so we know how many colors we need. In one of the first ones, we had like maybe 15 fabrics, but I designed a quilt that needed 16 colors, and I was like, oh, wait, I think I need to think about my quilt before I pick how many colors are going to be in that collection. I put together the 2 projects for quilting, and then my staff puts together a beautiful collection. The garment ones take us a long time. Each collection probably takes us about 3 days to put together. We'll start maybe with one, like for this winter, we started one of the collections with a wool, and it has 3 different colors in it. And then we just pulled from that wool to find the other fabrics. So each Garment for You card can be a capsule wardrobe. And if you had all the time in the world, every time you got a card, you could make a beautiful wardrobe just with those fabrics and the patterns we're suggesting. So we combine, there's 3 tops and something for outerwear, 3 bottoms that go with the tops, and Garment for You is 10 fabrics on each card, and they take quite a while, quite a lot of editing.
That would be really helpful.
What I'm kind of contrasting myself with is, I know a lot, but some big fabric stores do a swatch service, and every quarter, I don't know, certain amount of time, you get a plain envelope with just a whole bunch of scraps of fabric in it. And they don't necessarily go with each other. They might be just their 30 newest fabrics. They don't go together. You might never want to wear them. They might not look good on you. So it's not really helpful. And you have to go through them and cross-reference the computer printout that they come with. And this way, if you wear cool tones, you're only going to get cool tones, and you're going to get things that you want right now to make clothes for the next season.
I am always surprised at that ugly fabric that you see or you own, and you go like, oh my God, what am I ever going to do with this? And then somebody just puts it in an assortment and you go, oh.
Right. That's what I'm going to do with it.
That's what I'm going to do with it. Or vice versa. You see a collection of fabrics, and it's really hard sometimes to pick them all off the shelf because they're totally out of context. And you've looked at it, but you don't realize it's that same fabric that's on the wall.
Right. So we kind of put it all together for you. You can really visualize either the quilt or a wardrobe, or a shirt fabric that goes well with a pant fabric.
So is there a material that you don't like to use?
Slippery silk. Thank you.
Sounds like you've had some experience.
Yeah. Yeah. No, my life is too short.
I am very attracted to those silk whole one-piece quilts, whole cloth quilts. That's what they're called.
Oh, yeah.
And they do all that free motion quilting on top of it, and maybe even double bat it, so there's some loft to it. They just look so beautiful.
I know. Well, I mean, that's usually like a kimono silk, right? Or are they the slippery, thin silks?
I've seen them done with a number of different silks, but normally they do it with a slightly heavier weight quilt or silk.
Yeah, I can handle that, just not that super slippery stuff. No, thank you.
Is there a guild in Missoula?
Yeah, we have a big Missoula Quilt Guild with over 200 people in it, and then a small modern quilt guild that meets at the Confident Stitch.
And what kind of support are they usually looking from you?
Just a meeting space. A meeting space and great modern quilt fabric.
What is the fitting mistake that you see many people make?
The biggest fitting mistake is that they don't try on their garment as they're sewing it. A lot of customers come in and feel really frustrated because they made a whole jacket and did all the top stitching and it's everything, but it didn't end up fitting. So, I mean, the main mistake is not trying it on the whole time. I mean, I try on the tissue and then I pin fit the fabric and then I'll sew a couple seams and I'll try it on again. So I think that's the biggest mistake, is not trying it on as you're sewing it.
So what do you have coming up on your YouTube channel?
Well, we have created a big what is the Confident Stitch and who is Kate McIvor video. And it's pretty epic. There's me talking, but then we have a ton of B-roll, and it's going to be really nice, but it's taking a lot of work. Besides that video, the next 3 videos will all be around the swatch service, which is coming out on November 9th. Oh, Maisie, my employee who is learning how to sew and is also she has her own theater company, so she's great. She's going to show how to make winter mittens. So that's coming up. And then I'm really going to dive into my fitting series. I've already filmed the first video on how to get your tissue ready. And then I'm going to move on to trying on your tissue and all of the things that you and I went through, and try to cover all the bases with different fit models and myself, and move ahead with that. But then every 3 months, I'll do some more quilting. And yeah, it's gonna stay a variety like it is now, but I'm gonna really go all in with the fitting, because I think that people really want to learn about that. And I think, as you said in your video, fitting is what stops people from making clothes, because they're afraid of it or they don't know how to get started.
So if they need to find you, how do they find you?
Well, on YouTube, we're The Confident Stitch, and our beautiful website is also called The Confident Stitch. We are doing a little rebranding. It's going to be not The Confident Stitch, but Confident Stitch. We're getting some new colors. The website's going to be improving at the beginning of November. And we also have a great Instagram under The Confident Stitch, and we're on Facebook. We have a Facebook community where you can show off what you're making and ask questions. I hang out there all the time. It's called The Confident Stitch Community. We're sort of on TikTok, on The Confident Stitch on TikTok as well.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today. I really enjoyed catching up with you.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. I really appreciate you interviewing me, and I love your channel so much.
I hope you've enjoyed my interview with Kate McIvor. She has helped me realize that clothing that fits me not only is within reach, but is also important to my self-esteem and my mental health. If you are interested in checking out her YouTube channel, her classes, or her swatch service, I'll have all her contact information and the links in the notes below. The book that she references is called Complete Guide to Fitting by Pati Palmer and Marta Alto, and I'll leave a link below to that as well. Next up on Karen's Quilt Circle is Stephanie Nagai of Wonderful, and we will be talking about growing up in the family business. You don't want to miss it, so be sure to subscribe. Next time you're in your sewing room, be sure to have Karen's Quilt Circle playing on in the background. I have interviewed so many amazing people on this show. Let one inspire you. And check out my latest video. Take care, and I'll see you next time.